Hi, folks, and welcome to a brief discussion of some tips for the college essay. I'd like to take just a minute and go over one of the PowerPoints that I gave you guys and just elaborate on a few things that might help you as you're writing your college essays. So let's start with our college essay tips and spend a little time talking about those. First off, the number one thing I need to remind you of is to be you. This is really about selling yourself to the colleges. It's about helping them understand who you are and what you're all about. So this is a time to set aside some of the faces that you sometimes show to other people and be who you really are. One of the things I like to remind you is if you get accepted to a college by pretending to be someone who you're not, chances are when you get there, you're not going to be happy because of who you are. So it's okay in an essay like this to really let the real you come out. So be introspective, be thoughtful, but really be yourself. That's one of the key things that I want to get across to you. Another thing that's really important is to choose the topics carefully. Now, there's a whole PowerPoint presentation on how to pick the right topic and exploring each one of the topics, and also about how to brainstorm topics and ideas for the different topics. But when you look at those, one of the things I want to remind you is that you need to read that prompt really carefully. Make sure that you're actually answering the prompt. That's a big turnoff to college admissions officers is if you don't really answer the prompt that was given to you. You have a lot of options. For the assignment that I've given you, you have 7 different options. So you need to pick the one that's best for you. Don't necessarily do the very first one that comes to mind. Sometimes you've got to push a little deeper because you want it to be something that's original and really reflects who you are. So make sure that you take the time to really consider all of your options before you make a choice. Another thing that I can't stress enough is that you have to give yourself time to do this. Now, granted, you only have until Sunday evening to do a draft for me, but keep in mind that it is a first draft. This is not the last time you're going to work on this essay. It might not even be the last time you work on this essay for my class, but you're definitely going to want to spend more time on it when you get to your actual college application process. Right now, I'm giving you feedback. This is something that I have a lot of experience doing. I've been doing this for years, and I've talked to a lot of college admissions people, and I know kind of what they're looking for. But it helps to get a lot of different people's perspective. One of the reasons for that is that we tend to say things in our essays that make perfect sense to us, but might not make sense to those college admissions officers that are reading your essay. So you want to make sure that you take the time to actually get a lot of different perspectives so that people can ask those questions. I have had people write really great first drafts, and then I've circled the last paragraph and said, throw everything else out. This is your essay. And that's probably going to be the case with some of you. That's not a failure. It doesn't mean that you've wasted your time. It just meant that you did a writing exercise to get to the really core kernel of your essay. So make sure that you're looking at it this way. Just because I might suggest to you this is something you want to focus on, or maybe this isn't as important, ultimately you're going to be making these editing decisions. So don't be afraid to throw things away or move them around or build things up or winnow things down. All of those things are going to be necessary for a really effective college essay. It's really a good idea to read it out loud to hear how it sounds, because whenever we read something, we hear it in our heads. So make sure that you're reading it out loud, or even better, have someone else read it out loud to you so that you can hear it the way that they're seeing it. Double check your spelling, your grammar. I'll help you with all those things, of course. When you're actually doing this and you're applying to college, make sure you're sending the right prompt to the right school. For the Common App essay, most of them will accept any one of these 7. For Apply Texas, it's a little bit different. And then for additional essays, sometimes people find that colleges have additional essay requirements, and something you've already done might be a really good fit for that particular essay with a little bit of revision. So be aware that you can do that if the need comes up. Get the reader's attention. And this needs to start right from the beginning. I've already looked at a couple of essays that people have sent, and in pretty much every case, I've encouraged them to make a change at the beginning of the essay because it just didn't grab the way that it needs to. This needs to be an effective piece of writing. It needs to be very visual. It needs to get to all of your senses. And that means strong images and well-chosen words. One of the things I always advise people is to let the verbs do most of the work. Leave out your adjectives and adverbs. Use strong nouns and especially strong verbs. That's going to make your essay read a whole lot better if you just take the time to do that. I mentioned unique, thoughtful ideas. If you can find a way to say something that's not a cliche, that's a really neat opportunity to sort of reveal a little bit about yourself and your creativity. A lot of people struggle with the opening. I don't care if you have to turn this essay into me on Sunday with a pair of brackets and it says insert first paragraph here. So many times I've had people who just skip the first paragraph, start writing the second paragraph, and what we discover is the second paragraph is where you needed to begin anyway. So keep that in mind. That very first line that your reader sees, that needs to be fantastic. It needs to be something that is going to stand out and really help them get their attention. Remember that college admissions counselors are reading thousands and thousands of essays. You want to get their attention right from the start so that they're seeing your essay as something worthwhile, something to give extra attention to. So that's one of the things you can do is have a great first line. And if you need help with that, I'll try and give you some ways to revise that as we go. One of the things that I'm going to encourage you to do more than anything else is to be specific. Specificity is one of the best ways to make your essay really effective. And usually that means limiting it to a single time and place. I've had people who want to write about their whole high school experience or their whole educational experience or, practically their entire lives, and that's not going to work as well. You need to limit this essay as much as possible to a single time and place, though you can make references to other times and places as necessary. But the focus probably needs to be on a fairly limited time. I would say not more than a week. Avoid sweeping generalizations. And I know that in itself is a generalization. But when you make these big statements, it tends to make you seem to be a less complicated, nuanced individual. What I mean is, it seems like you don't think very deeply. You just take things on the surface. So you want to leave those out as much as possible. Sometimes you won't have room or time or inclination to say everything you want about a particular person or individual. You just don't have the word count to really give them the full depth of the explanation when you're describing this person or when you're describing this event. So you want to choose your words very carefully, again, so that they imply those things, even if they're not actually stated. This is kind of what we talked about if you're in English 3 when we did the descriptive essay. I think it was English 3, maybe it was AP. Whoever did the descriptive essay, it's that same sort of thing about choosing those words carefully in order to connote what you want to get across. And keep it simple. Use the fewest number of words necessary. Now, for this, it needs to be between 500 and 800, but don't give me an 800-word essay if you don't really need to. And this is also not the place to try to impress me with a tremendous vocabulary. You're not likely to impress the college admissions officers either. If it's your natural vocabulary, that's one thing. But if you're trying to use a thesaurus to make yourself sound smarter, chances are that's not going to work. So don't do it. Finally, the number one thing that I want to get across is this is a movie trailer, not a feature film. You're trying to give them enough in this essay that it's going to help them want to find out more about you. You're trying to get them to buy a ticket for 4 years so that they can see the movie that develops. You are not trying to tell them everything about yourself. You're just trying to give them enough to make them want to find out more. And you want to do it in such a way so that when they're through reading it and they're talking about your whole application in an admissions meeting, they're like, oh yeah, that was the girl who said, or this was the guy who talked about whatever that thing is. That's how you're going to make them remember you. This is a long process. Don't feel bad if you write this first draft and it's not the essay that you want. That happens. Sometimes people do 2, 3, 4 essays before they really hit on the one that is perfect for them. What's going to work for you, I can't say. There's no one right way to write a college admissions essay. One thing I can say that will help you, though, is to ask me questions, to talk about it, have a discussion by email, and send me your drafts as soon as possible so I can start giving you feedback this week. Guys, I hope you're all well. I am looking forward to seeing what you all come up with. Please don't forget to answer the questions of the day that are also on the Blackbaud page, and email me if you have any questions about any of this whatsoever. Have a wonderful time, whatever you're doing. Good luck with all your other work, and I will talk to you later.